so it's quieter up here, so I'm going to do this bit upstairs. So I did upload a video titled Where I've Been, so it kind of does explain what's been happening, but this is going to be in a bit more detail, just because it's YouTube and you go into a lot more detail on YouTube than you do on TikTok, because you only have a certain amount of time on TikTok. Alright, so we went out to a museum in Sheffield, me, my mum and Richard. It was like the start of May, I'm pretty certain, maybe end of April. No, I think I'm not quite sure, but it was like beginning of May time. And for the last couple of months, my mum, well, since her car accident in October, she basically hasn't been right with her mobility, her pain. She's just never really fully recovered from her car accident. She's undergoing a bunch of different tests at the moment at the hospital, for different things on, like, basically trying to get to a point of like what the cause was to cause her to have the car accident. So she basically has not just been right with her mobility, like she can only walk like a certain amount of time before she needs to sit down, and you know, keep walking, sit down, keep walking, sit down, which we've been doing for many years since she was diagnosed with ME and fibromyalgia. So we've known that as pacing. Went out to a lovely museum in Sheffield, and you know, she wasn't good on that day in terms of her mobility. She's also had this cough since she actually got COVID last year in July, and it's basically just never gone away. You know, it'll get to a point of like she can go like a few weeks without the cough, and then it'll come back. She's been to the doctor, she's seen a respiratory consultant, and they said it is the hiatus hernia that she has, that is basically like, I think like the indigestion is going up like the wrong pipe and causing her to cough. So she's on some inhalers. So she hasn't been good like breathing wise, you know, like mobility, struggling to breathe basically. Went out on Saturday. We finished at the museum and we headed out to do the food shop, like we always do. And she was struggling to walk around, but like more than normal, mainly. So we, you know, took us time, came home, and then it was like Saturday evening, like late evening-ish time, before like bed, her back went, and we all put it down, including my mum, we all put it down to just a fibromyalgia flare-up. It happens all the time whenever my mum goes out, if she just goes out to the shops, if she goes on holiday, if she just goes down to my nan's, walking, it sets her like fibromyalgia off, and it basically makes her have like a flare-up, and we were just like, you'll be fine in like a couple of days kind of thing, you know, it's just a flare-up, you just need to rest a lot more than, you know, to help your body recuperate. But her back pain was just getting a lot worse, and none of her painkillers that she usually takes took any action. And she was basically struggling to like sit up on the sofa, and then also struggled to get actually up on the off from the sofa and walk just even into the kitchen. And again, we all put it down to just a flare-up. Didn't really think anything of it. We were just like, you just need a couple of days just to rest, and your body will be back to normal, back to the same usual, you know, back to my mum's normal. And then Sunday, it progressed to she was in agony laying down in bed. It took us ages to get her up from laying down position up, and then actually to get off the bed and then walk downstairs. And at this point we did mention, we was like, I think you need to go, well, I was like, I think you need to go to hospital just to like check it out, because I feel like you might have maybe pulled a muscle in your back, just to check it out, really. My mum is stubborn, always has been stubborn. She was like, no, it's just fibromyalgia, don't need to go to A&E, we're all good. And me and Rich were like, you know, we can't do anything, it's up to my mum, it's her body, she knows what's best. All we can do is really help and offer our advice and reassurance. And then Monday night, again, we offered to take her to the hospital because Richard was actually off. She refused to go because she didn't want to go, because she just thought it was fibromyalgia. And I just kept saying to my mum, I really think you do need to go to the hospital. So she was just like, it's just fibromyalgia. And then Tuesday morning happened. I'll try and cut it down short, but I'm a waffler. Tuesday morning happened, I got up out of bed, and my mum and Richard, I think we just got up out of bed around the same time. We generally normally do, me and my mum get up at a similar time. And Richard was on nights that week. So he was like staying in bed, but obviously was helping my mum get up out of bed, and you know. I got in just to check on how she's doing, say morning to her, ask how she is, kind of thing. And at that point, she was on the edge of the bed, and my mum's bed has like banisters, you know, like the 4-post like banisters, and she also has her a spare walking stick upstairs, because it got to a point where she was literally using a walking stick in every single room she would go in. And she said from the look of her, she did not look good. In terms of, she was just in quite a lot of pain, and she said that it took Richard an hour to get her from the laying down position to where she was at the edge of the bed. And I was like, oh god, that's not really like a good sign. And I tried to help her off the bed. Obviously I didn't yank her off, I just gave her my hand, and she kind of just like pulled on it in her own way. But at that point, if we even just went near her, not even like touching her back, but just like near enough, she was just screaming in like agonizing pain. And I'm like, Mum, I really do think you need to go to hospital. Like, just because A, I want you to get checked out, B, you also now, like, her breathing at this point also, she was really struggling. Like, she couldn't form words, but like, if she was to say like a sentence, she was like gasping for breath, and I was like, whoa, hang on, that's like escalated from just being in pain with your back and not being able to move much to now she's like struggling to breathe and form a sentence without gasping for air in between. I was like, that is just not right. I'm like, Mum, you really need to go to hospital. And again, she was very reluctant, and she was like, I need to go to the toilet. I'm like, right, I'll help you to the toilet. It took me a good, I would say about 20 minutes to get her off from the bed, and at this point she was literally like shuffling to the toilet, like not even walking, just like really just like this kind of thing, with a walking stick, and me like kind of like behind her, but I couldn't touch any part of her body because she was just screaming so much for me to get away from her because she was in that much pain. Managed to get her to the toilet, and at this point her colour then changed, and she was constantly, I would say every couple of minutes, she was asking me to get her a drink because she was thirsty. Like, she had like a really dry mouth. She said she had a really dry mouth, and I just was constantly giving her water, and I'm like, I was okay, there's something seriously amiss here. So when she sat on the toilet, I'm like, Mum, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to phone an ambulance. Because this is just not right. I feel it's not right, and I feel you need to go to hospital. And she was like, yeah, alright. So she was on the toilet. Richard was in the bedroom, and I phoned the ambulance, explained everything, and they said that it's going to be up to a 2-hour like waiting time for the ambulance. And I'm like, alright, that's fine, don't worry about it, I can manage self-care at home, and my mum's self-care at home, that's fine. And then I think it was about like 50 minutes later, I got a phone call from no caller ID. Again, I didn't link this to the ambulance service. I just generally just thought it was like hospital or something. I answered it, and it was a clinician from the Yorkshire ambulance service. And he wanted to obviously speak to my mum, and I said, you can speak to my mum, but she's gasping every few seconds, can't really make any sense, she's not really forming like sentences without having to like basically struggling to breathe. So I said, I will put you on speakerphone, and obviously if it's too much for my mum, I'll have to take over. And he was like, yeah, no problem. So he kind of just did another assessment, with my mum's input this time. And he said, an ambulance has been dispatched, but again we're experiencing delays. And I'm like, that's fine, don't worry about it. I know the NHS is in a massive crisis at the moment, so it's completely fine. He asked where my mum was at the moment. She was like sat on the toilet, and we have a like frame around the toilet to help my mum like get up anyway. We've had that for years, but I even had to bring in like a chair, just a dining chair, from downstairs up into the bathroom, so she could get from the toilet to the chair. I faced the chair like facing the door, so she sat on that. Again, during this, I was constantly giving her water because she was just constantly saying, Rebecca, I need a drink, Rebecca, I need a drink, my mouth is so dry. And we managed to get her downstairs, thankfully, and it wasn't too long until the ambulance service came. I can't quite remember how long it was once we got downstairs, and we took probably about 20 minutes to get downstairs because my mum was in so much pain she could barely move without being in agony. We're downstairs on the sofa. The ambulance service came. It was 2 women. Again, we were speaking to my mum and me. We kind of again just told the story, and then whilst we were doing that, I was getting medication, telling that the paramedic, who was like on her laptop, like the list of medications that she's on, and her conditions, how it affects her, and then the other paramedic was doing her observations. So they were doing the observations, and it came up saying that my mum's oxygen level was 88%. Now, if you know oxygen levels they're supposed to be ranged between 95 and 100%. That is just an average normal oxygen level. But my mum's was 88%, 87, 88. So that was like a red flag immediately. There was like, is that normal for your mum? I goes, I don't know, because we don't have anything to test our oxygen levels with. So I mean, it could be her normal, but we just don't know. We explained her cough, her discerning all the different conditions, and that she's been generally unwell since her car accident. And the paramedics gave her a oxygen, like little, don't really know what it's called, but it's like where the little things that go up in your nose, and it's like a little wire. She was on that, and while she was on that, her oxygen levels did go up, thankfully. And then there was that, unfortunately we're going to have to bring you in because of the severe pain and your oxygen levels being super duper low. Unfortunately we need to take you into hospital. At this point we didn't know if she was going to be admitted or not. They asked if I was going to go, and I said no. The reason why I didn't go, and you may be thinking, Rebecca, that is so heartless. I didn't go because at the moment my seizures are just not good. And I haven't... I've been in public when I've had seizures, don't get me wrong. But, like, hospital and stress is a trigger for my seizures. And obviously, I'm trying to look after my mum. I didn't want to be sat in a cubicle with my mum who's barely, on oxygen, not well, and then I just have like 10 billion seizures. It's just not a really good mix. I explained that to them, and they were a bit miffy, to be honest, but my mum was like, well, hang on, I don't know, I guess she was like, well, so what's the point? Like, can you not go out with your seizures? And because I've just recently just been diagnosed, like, last week, like, I'm trying to navigate. It was just like, she was a bit miffy, the paramedic. So the ambulance service paramedics took her in, and me and Richard was gathering her, we gave her a few stuff, like a phone charger, some magazines, a book, her medication, kind of like I guess like the essentials. And me and Richard were like, we're not going to go up straight away because it'd be a bit pointless going up straight away because we're not going to know anything straight away, because they need to do 10 billion checks, they need to do blood tests, different type of things. We're not going to know anything straight away, so it'd be really pointless. So we waited until like the evening. Obviously my mum was updating us constantly via like the phone, texting, etc. And I said to her, if you need us to come up earlier than what we're going to come up, then please just ring us and we'll come up. And I can't quite remember what time we got there, but it was like late evening. I think it was about, it could have been after like 6:30, I think. She went in about 12:30. So I think we went in about like 6, maybe 6:30. And then we went in, she was in a cubicle and she was on oxygen, and they said that she has a lung infection, because I forgot to mention, when the paramedics were doing my mum's like observations, they did like with the stethoscope, they basically asked my mum to breathe in and out because obviously she was struggling. They said they could hear some crackling on the right lung, and she was like, it does sound like it could be an infection. So we went up and they said that it is a lung infection, and she's got fluid around her lungs. And we were like, how the fudge did that happen? How did that occur? I still don't know. I mean, none of the above either. So we stayed with my mum until about, I think it was about like 9:30. And at that point, whilst we were there, they said that they're going to admit her because in the next few days they would need to do the draining of the fluids around her lungs. So she was then admitted. She got put in to AMU, which is acute medical unit. It's basically what I think it's just a ward where they just plonk people where they don't know where they're going to put them as of yet, because they don't really know what's wrong with them until they've done some more tests. And then once they've confirmation of some tests, I'm like, right, that's what's wrong with you. Right, they need to go up to the respiratory ward, diabetes ward, endocrinology, etc. It's kind of just like a holding ward. So she was in there, I think she was only in there like a night, maybe 2 nights, if that. She had like an ultrasound done, and that confirmed to the fluid around her lungs. Said that she would need to put a drain in to drain the fluid and the infection. So then, because she wasn't really maintaining her oxygen levels, they were still quite low even on oxygen, they had to swap over to a like oxygen mask. But then, because they couldn't keep on track of her oxygen levels, it was kind of a bit like, we can't do anything on the ward, because on wards they only do like 4-hourly observations, but because my mum's oxygen levels were so low, it wasn't really good enough for them to do like 4 hour. She needed to be basically monitored 24/7. So then she was moved into respiratory critical care, and basically it was a room where she was on her own, and basically she just constantly monitored 24/7 a day, constantly monitored. So she was on there for, I think, around a week. She was on the critical care respiratory ward, and during that time they did do the draining, but it was unsuccessful because there was a lot of pus coming out. So there was that, it's unsuccessful, we're going to have to try again another time. So we obviously visited, both me, Richard, my nan, my auntie. My granddad was on holiday up until just recently, so we was constantly going up afternoons and nights, constantly in contact with her via FaceTime, phone calls, texts, and while she was there they said that it is pneumonia, and we still don't know the reason, like how she got the infection in the first place. We just don't know. Like, nobody knows, like not even the nurses or doctors know. And then the last week she is on the respiratory ward now, and her observations, I think, are every 4 hours because it's just a generalised ward. She is off oxygen. She's only on a nebulizer. I don't really know the difference between nebulizer and oxygen, other than I think that, like, with a nebulizer they put like a certain like solution maybe in like the mask, and it like helps to open her airways up. I'm pretty certain. I think it could be steroids they put in. So she's only on that twice a day now. Bunch of different painkillers because she's in still loads of pain. She's had the drain again, and thankfully it has been successful. So she's currently having that in, and that's draining all the infection in the fluid. And yeah, she has been in hospital 3 weeks tomorrow as I'm filming this. And yeah, it has just been a hectic and a very, very stressful last 3 weeks, let me tell you. And then add insult to injury, literally the same week, the day after, guess who was ill? Moi. And also at this point in time, Richard's dad was also in hospital with his kidneys basically like not great, like kidney infection, talking about dialysis. Thankfully he's home and everything seems to be okay. I think he's just been monitored and going up to like the hospital every so often, and thankfully he's not on dialysis. His kidney function did improve whilst he was in the hospital. So like Richard had my mum in hospital, his dad in hospital, and then I go and throw a wobble and become ill. What did I get? Flipping gastroenteritis again. Not fun, let me tell you about that. I had a gastroenteritis 3 years ago at the end of June, and oh my god, did that wipe me out. And I actually was admitted into hospital for 1 day. I was only there for night because I dehydrated so quick. For some reason when I'm ill I dehydrate a lot quicker than an average person. No clue why. Quite scary, not gonna lie. So I'm constantly on fluids and stuff, and whenever I'm ill, fluids, you know, woo, I need all the fluids. And also I'm prone to fainting 10 billion times, and that is before I was diagnosed with my non-epileptic seizures. I faint a lot when I'm ill. I think it's just, I guess, a reaction to being ill. So yeah, I get gastroenteritis, don't I, the day after my mum's admitted in hospital. I honestly was like, just everything, why not? Just, come on. Why not just have everything bombarded onto you? Let's make everything worse. And I know it's only gastroenteritis, and like, there's far flipping more problems out there than gastroenteritis. You are right, you are very, very right. But when my mum was in hospital and Richard's dad was in hospital, and then I become ill and Richard's having to run around like an headless chicken, a little bit different. So basically, all I know, well, I do remember, basically went to sleep, and about an hour later I had some indigestion, and I was like, ooh, that's normal. I suffer really bad with indigestion. I'm on 2 lots of and like sickness tablets. I live on Rene's Gaviscon. It's like my besties. I generally just thought it was indigestion. How long was I? Woke up, had some indigestion, and I was like, oh, okay, gonna be one of those nights. Took some Gaviscon, settled down. I was like, oh, just one of them nights. Go back to sleep. About half an hour later, boom, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna chuck up for absolute Britain here. And normally, sometimes I do get that feeling and nothing ever happens. And I was like, oh. And then the stomach pain came. I was like, that's just IBS, you know, just IBS, we'll be okay. I sit up, and then I was like, oh, okay, I need to go to the toilet, like, now. Now. Ran to the toilet, happened. I was like, just IBS, again. I put things off, you know, my mum saying fibromyalgia. And it's just IBS, it's fine. At this point, it was 12:30 at night. I was like, kind of just want to go to sleep. Richard heard me go to the toilet, and he saw the toilet light go on. So he asked if I was okay. I said, yeah, I think it's just like IBS. And then it wasn't. It just kept coming and coming and coming. And I was on the toilet from 1 a.m. until about 4:30. I literally could not get up off the toilet because it was just coming. It was coming, bottom end. And I was like, oh, it's alright, it's just only that. As long as I'm not sick, we're all good, we're all fine. And I didn't feel sick. This was like what threw me off. I did not feel sick. And then Richard stayed up because he says I don't feel well. I keep fainting. So he opened the toilet door and he stayed with me, and I was fainting. Just fainting and fainting. Fainted like 10 times that night. At this point I was like, Richard, I think I need to go into hospital. And I didn't want to because obviously my mum was in hospital and I didn't want to worry her. But I kind of like, if I'm going to dehydrate so quickly and I'm fainting those and those times, like, so we were like, oh, we'll just phone 111. I phoned 111 up, explained everything. This is what I don't get. She was like, can you get yourself to the hospital? And I goes, yeah, my dad's here. But I actually can't get off of the toilet because it's just constantly coming out. I have no break. And then also I'm fainting constantly. It's like a vicious loop. And I was like fainting on the phone to this call handler, so Richard had to take over. And she was like, can you just not get up to the hospital on your own? We have dispatched an ambulance, but it's like a 2-hour wait. And I'm like, I don't care if it's a 2-hour wait. But she was just like adamant that she wanted me to go to the hospital. And I was like, if I was to go to the hospital without being in an ambulance, I would have to sit in the waiting room, rushing to the toilet and fainting in the waiting room. I was like, nah, mate, I'm not doing that. So I was just like and ahhing to. I was like, it's fine, I'll just do it. I'll just stay at home. I've got my dad with me. I've managed to get up at the toilet at like 4:30. So me and Richard at this point was shattered. gets into bed. I take actually some anti-diarrhea tablets, take those, and I seem to like settle down a little bit. I was like, I finally get some sleep. 5:30, whoa, okay, I'm gonna be sick this time. And thankfully, before I got into bed, Rich was like, do you want to have like a bucket just in case you're sick? And I'm like, yeah, just out of precaution. Thankfully, I fudging did. I was just sick. Trigger warning, content warning, I will put a warning. I was sick. And Richard was in the bedroom next door and he heard me and he was like, have you been sick? And I was like, yes. So he cleaned the bucket out, and after I was sick I felt okay-ish. I was like, oh god. But at this point it was like 5:30. I'm like, I'm not going to go to sleep now whatsoever. Now I'm awake, my body's not going to go to sleep, so I did not go to sleep. And I was in bed for 3 days because I still had the diarrhea. I didn't have the sickness, I just had the diarrhea. And I was having fudge sink. I obviously did not see my mum during this time because I'm not going to infect the hospital. And honestly, I was just, the following day I was asleep the entire day. I would wake up for a little bit, check to see like what time it was. Richard was coming in checking to see how I were. And whilst he was at the hospital when my mum was admitted, he booked a week off work because just out of like ease for my mum mainly, so he could, you know, be with my mum. And thankfully he did. And yeah, I just slept the entire following day, and then I was not eating at all. I was constantly on fluids, but I wouldn't eat because I just didn't want to eat because my belly was just, it just basically just felt delicate. So yeah, fun. What I'm going to do is just put the section of where I've just been talking about my mum and me into a separate video because I don't want this to be in my weekly vlog, because then my vlog will be far too long. So I'm going to just do that as just like a separate video. But yeah, that is the update. My mum is still in hospital. We have no clue when she's coming home. Yeah, it's just been chaos. A lot of stuff's been on my mind recently. Mental health hasn't been the best. Physical health has not been the best whatsoever. Like from my gastroenteritis, my IBS has been in a really bad flare-up. My seizures have been super bad recently, but that is just because I'm stressed. I know the trigger for that. Visiting my mum, you know, afternoon and evenings, doing like the food shop with Richard on a weekend. I've kind of literally just spent the entire time in my house because for some reason I just keep getting just different like flare-ups. Like, oh, someone is deciding to, like, what is it, like, not like a lawnmower, but you get one of them things and like it looks like a metal detector. I'm just doing that. I just keep getting different flare-ups. My IBS flares has been in a really bad flare-up. My seizures have been in a really bad flare-up. My mental health has just not been good, but that's just because my mum's been in hospital, so I'm just really, really worried and stuff. Other different things have been happening that I need to speak to the doctor about, but I'm not going to do that until my mum's out of hospital, just because I don't want to kind of like add on to the stress. I've got a few different hospital appointments happening next month, which I'm kind of like nervous about-ish. I've got some things happening in July, like I have an appointment with my urology because basically my bladder lining is damaged. I'll have to like make a video about these other problems that have been happening. So yeah, that's what's been happening, and I'm super sorry for not uploading for like ages, but I hope now you see why I haven't been uploading. I will try and get back in the groove of it, but I'm not really doing anything considering my mum's in hospital. So until like she's out of hospital and recovers, they said the recovery time is going to be 6 weeks, and you know, I'm not going to do anything much, so yeah, I will try my best to vlog, but I'm not like guaranteeing when the next upload will be.